Okay, this recipe is for hard candy. So this would be suckers, or you could make little lozenges or little dots. But today we're going to make some suckers. So the first thing you need to do is obviously turn on your heat. And we want to put in our pot first the water, and I have the corn syrup in here as well. So we're going to put those two in. We want to start with a lower heat. Make sure you get all the corn syrup out. Okay, and then we're going to add our sugar on top of that. Now, one of the things when making confection items is making sure you don't crystallize the sugar. And so crystallizing sugar happens when you get crystals on the side of the pot, or you're using dirty sugar, which could be contaminated with flour or anything else that gets into your sugar bin. So it's always best to use fresh sugar if you can. But the other secret is to not get crystals up the sides of the pot. So the way I do that is by putting the liquid in first and then gently pouring the sugar in after. You can see that there's still a little bit of dry sugar in the middle. So I'm just going to take my thermometer and sort of gently stir the sugar. I want to make sure it all looks a little bit like wet sand before I actually start applying a lot of heat. So I'm just going to mix that up a little bit, but you'll notice I'm being really careful to not get crystals on the sides of the pot. And this goes for any time you cook sugar. Really want to make sure that you're not getting crystals up the sides. Okay, so you can see now it's all nice and sandy texture. We're going to turn up the heat a little bit, and we're going to wait for it to start simmering. While that's happening, I want to make sure that my molds are ready to go. And you want them to just be lightly oiled, or with a little bit of pan spray. But you just want to do just a touch. You don't want to go crazy. And if you see here how I've got sort of a big blob, I just want to take my finger and either a paper towel, just sort of smooth it out, because you don't want big gobs of oil. You just need a little bit to make sure that they release, and you really want to hit in the edges of the mold. So vegetable oil or pan spray will work for this, but just make sure you don't have any big bubbles of it, okay? There we go, so our molds are ready to go. The other thing we want to make sure that we have ready is our flavoring. Candy flavor is really super concentrated flavor. One of the tips for this is to not put it in a plastic container. It's so strong that it will eat through your plastic container. So find something metal or glass to put it in, and make sure that it's all ready to go, because once this starts cooking, you need to make sure that everything is ready, because it just doesn't wait. You just need to work quickly as soon as it starts happening. So our sugar's starting to simmer, and I'm going to do one final check for crystals now that it's starting to simmer. I don't see any, but if I did, I would take my pastry brush and just a little bit of water, and I would just gently wash the sides of the pan. Don't stick your pastry brush into the sugar, but just wash the sides of the pan gently, just to make sure that you've loosened up all of those crystals. You really want them to start dissolving right at the beginning. So now we're going to start cooking our sugar, and we need it to come to 300 degrees Fahrenheit or 149 degrees Celsius. So an instant read thermometer is super important here. You don't want to use your meat thermometer. It needs to be a digital thermometer similar to this one. They're cheap, they're like $10, but it's really important that you use one of these. Your meat thermometer will take too long to read. So we're going to start cooking it, and once it comes up to about 250 degrees, I'm going to add just the barest touch of blue food coloring. I'm going to make blueberry suckers today, but you just want to tint it just a little bit. We're going to add some pansies to these suckers, so I want to make sure that they're visible. So I don't want the color to be so dark that we can't see it. So what's going to happen as the sugar starts cooking is that the water is going to start to evaporate. And this is a small amount, so it doesn't take a super long time. So I want to keep an eye on it with my thermometer. So in this case, I'm heading to 260 degrees or 127 Fahrenheit, and I'm almost there already. The reason you want to add the food coloring earlier than the finish is so that the water in the food coloring can evaporate. We don't want to leave that food coloring till the end. Maybe just one more second here and I'll add the color. So I'm going to add my food coloring, and the way I'm going to do that, because I just want the barest hint, is that I'm just going to get it on my thermometer and just sort of trail it through. And again, I'm just looking for a nice pale blue. So I don't want it to be super strongly colored, but I'm going to take a look at that and I decide I just want a tiny bit more. So I'm just going to add just another dot. Okay, now we're going to keep cooking until it gets to 300 degrees Fahrenheit or 149 degrees Celsius. When you're cooking sugar syrups and confections, you don't really want to stir them. That can encourage crystals to grow, and you don't want that to happen. So I'm getting really close already. You'll notice that this didn't take me very long. I do have an induction burner, so it's going to go a little faster for me than it would for you on your home burner. But you want to make sure that you hit the temperature without going over. So I'm going to give it one quick stir just to make sure I'm that temperature all the way around, and I am. So I'm going to take my thermometer out, and then I'm going to add my flavoring. I want you to not breathe. The steam from the flavor hits. It's really, really strong, so don't breathe it in. And I'm just going to swirl that around through the mix. Okay, now I'm just going to add it to my measuring cup here, and I'm going to pour in about half of it. You don't want to leave this on the heat, but you don't want it to get cold while you're working. So I'm going to take it, and I'm going to do my first 5 lollipops. And I just want to pour it about halfway. So I'm going to halfway fill my mold. And you have to work quickly, so make sure you have everything ready, ready, ready. Okay? So now that my mold's half filled, I want to put my sticks in. You want to line up the stick with the bottom of the mold. And then we're going to put some pansies in. And you want to put your pansies in pretty side down. Okay? So we're just going to lay that on top. You want to sort of just gently press it. Ooh, got 2 there. Give a gentle press. Remember, the sugar syrup is extremely hot, so don't push your fingers right into the sugar. Gentle press. Okay, now we're just going to top that up. Make sure you cover the stick and that your mold and your flour are completely covered. It looks like I need a bit more. So before I move on to the next tray, I'm going to just take a look, and I can see that I missed the stick a little bit, and I want to make sure that that stick is really, really well adhered to the sucker. So I'm just going to cover that up. And then I'm going to move on to the next one. So I don't have enough left to do all of them, so now I'm going to do them one at a time, just to make sure I have enough to finish. If it happens that you have a little bit stuck, you can always stick it in the microwave for 2 seconds, warm it up, and then you should be able to pour. I'm going to give that a try. Okay, so I just warmed it up for 10 seconds in the microwave. There we go. You're only going to be able to reheat it in the microwave maybe once, maybe twice. I don't think I have enough for one more, but I'm going to pour it out anyway, so it's not in my measuring cup. Okay, now we're just going to set these aside to cool. And they shouldn't take too long, maybe half an hour or so, but you do want to leave them at room temperature. Don't put them in the fridge. The sugar will attract moisture from the fridge and will make them sticky. So just pop them somewhere to the side, and we'll come back to them in about half an hour and we'll pop them out. Okay, our suckers have been sitting for about half an hour, and I can feel the bottoms of them, and they feel nice and cool. So I just want to take them out of the molds by sort of picking it up in a little bit like an ice cube tray. You just want to sort of pop it and then lift from the stick. So we'll do the same to all of them. Just be gentle about it. Help it from the stick end. So here, you can see we have some beautiful pansies encased in sugar. You could use herbs, you could use flowers, leaves, anything that's edible. Sometimes you see these with tequila worms inside. It's just a great way to showcase some ingredients. I really enjoy the pansies though because I feel like it's just so beautiful. And you can see why it's so important that the color is pale so that you can see the flower inside. Now we're just going to package those. You're just going to slide a bag over top and enjoy.